So you get attached to the world because you get connected, you get bound to the world because of desire, anger, and greed. Desire is the barrier between you and God. So the more you entertain desire, the more you're moving away from God. The more you're becoming unsuccessful, unhappy, and degrading yourself spiritually. So we need to understand that we are born in this world in a perfect environment, perfect to the extent that it is designed to help us shed desires. And that which has been given to us to shed desires, we are using only to promote desire. Acharati atmanaha shreyaha. The divine person works for his own welfare and development, which means we are using it to put ourselves down further. He does what is good to himself and thus reaches tato yati param gatim. He reaches the supreme goal, the goal of self-realization. 23.
Yashastra vidhimutsrujya vartate kamakaratah na sa siddhimavapnoti na sukham na param gatim.
One who, setting aside scriptural mandate, acts driven by desire, attains neither success nor happiness nor the supreme goal. So in 22 he says a seeker who crosses over desire, who overcomes desire, greed and anger, pursues the path of the good, Shreyaha, and reaches the supreme goal. Here he says a non-seeker, one who discards scriptural advice, falls a prey to desire and then to greed and anger, and he becomes a loser all the way. Not only does he not reach spiritual enlightenment, even in the world he doesn't gain either success or happiness. See, first of all, in the world, most people are unsuccessful and unhappy. There are very few people in the world who have one of two. And even those who are successful, those who are prosperous, are usually not happy. And those who are happy are mostly not successful. But what we are looking for is a combination of the two. That's very rare. Only a spiritual person gains this combination of success and happiness, and because he is spiritual, he goes beyond the world, for which you need the help of the Shastras. Shastra Vidhi. Shastra means it's a science. It's not just commandments given to you. It's not just the babblings of some person. It's a very carefully thought out, researched, and presentation of an invaluable knowledge. If you choose to set it aside, if you choose to disregard it, it will be at your peril, is what he's saying here. So, this Shastra, science, consists of a combination of what they call as Shruti and Smriti. In any presentation, in any literature, that literature is a combination of essential truths of life, which is embellished with a lot of non-essentials. This is necessary. In any literature, this is necessary. In a scripture, all the more so. So, you and I, when we study the scripture, we need to differentiate between the two, because the Shruti is a collection of eternal principles of life and living which are applicable at all periods of time to all human beings everywhere in the world. But Smriti, they are non-essentials. So they are specifically applied only to a certain population at a certain time and place. They are not universally applicable. So if you mix the two, and this is what's happening today, people are picking up the non-essentials and leaving the essential truths. And therefore, there is difference. Followers of one religion are different from followers of another religion. They see differences and fight among themselves. But if a person were to truly follow the essential truths in any religion, any branch of scriptures, you'll all arrive at the same. There will be no difference. So this is very important. Dharma, similarly, dharma is religion, consists of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is eternal principles of life, and Yuga Dharma, which is applicable to only that particular time, to a certain class of people. So you need to differentiate between the two. If you don't, again you get into trouble. Whatever it is, why do we cast aside scriptural ordinance and do our own thing? Why do we follow desires and not follow the scriptures? Easy, correct. It gives us instant pleasure. Following the scriptures, lifting ourselves to a higher level is always a strain. It requires effort. And because you don't want to put in that effort, you opt for instant gratification. Therefore, you need to, and all of this happens because you're ignorant. You're ignorant of the consequences of following the scripture. You're ignorant of the consequences of disregarding the scripture. And once you gain the knowledge, you will not do it. Therefore, it is that any negative act, there are two ways of dealing with it. One is you pass ordinance and say it is illegal, banned. It never works. When you ban something, when you prevent a person from accessing something, you only increase the desire for it. Therefore, it is that in states where alcohol is restricted, there is maximum alcoholism. Where it is freely available, it's not so bad. What you need more than that is knowledge of the consequences. When you have knowledge of consequences, when you inculcate the desire for good health, automatically this will go away. Similarly, we need to educate people right from childhood onwards, in whatever way, in a way in which the child can understand of what is good for the child, what is bad for the child, and that what is bad for you is maybe more attractive. Like for instance, junk food is tasty. Healthy food may not be that good. You need to cultivate a taste for it. Pop music is easily understandable. You don't need to educate a child to like pop music. But classical music, you need to spend time and cultivate an interest in it. Today, we are all in the age of instant gratification, and therefore we are taking the wrong path. Next verse, 24.
Tasmat shastram pramanam te karya vyavastitau jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartumiharhasi.
Tasmat, therefore, let the Shastra be your authority in deciding what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. Having known what is said in the scriptural mandate, you should perform action here. Now, this verse can be misunderstood. It's not that he's advocating blind following of the scriptures. What he says is, use your intellect, understand what the scripture is saying, reflect over it. And only if it appeals to your intellect, accept it, experiment with it, live it. When you see it working in your life, only then subscribe to. Exactly as you do in science, chemistry. You don't just accept what the teacher is saying because he's saying it. You go back, you think over it, you understand it, you actually experiment with it in the lab, and when you see it for yourself, that becomes your conviction. Thereafter, it's unshakable. The knowledge is yours. This is how we should go about it. And when we follow this, what will happen? You will know exactly what you ought to do and what you ought not to do. Intellect is of three kinds. Sattvic intellect knows clearly what is good, what is bad, what you ought to do, what you ought not to do, what is the path of action, what is the path of renunciation. A Rajasic intellect is confused. And in this confusion, he ends up doing the wrong thing. A Tamasic intellect is one which has the opposite understanding. He thinks good is bad and bad is good. He thinks What ought to be done is what ought not to be done, and vice versa. So in every aspect you need to learn what the higher knowledge and go through this procedure that we discussed, and then you develop this strong intellect which will help you make the right choices in the world. With this, we come to the end of the chapter. Now, what are the take-home points? The take-home points are sadhana, external and internal. Now, the question that might come to you is, how do I know whether I need to follow external sadhana or internal sadhana? Do it. Try it out. And you'll automatically see some things appeal to you, some things appear too far-fetched. Whatever appeals to you, follow that. It could be external, it could be internal, it doesn't matter. Second, very important, in order to do karma, bhakti and jnana yogas, you need to shift from deficiency motivation to appreciating the abundance, the blessings that that are yours. And then integrate this into your daily life, the daily schedule. How do we know we are developing? Test of development. What is the gateway to hell? Whenever you are in hell, understand it's because of desire, greed, and anger. And how do you get out of that? Follow the Shastra. So let's take a brief look at what chapter 16 is all about. First of all, it deals with the divine and demonic qualities. He gives 26 qualities of the divine and 6 qualities of the demonic. We discussed the power of thought. Watch out, therefore, for the thoughts that go on in your mind. Then we discussed happiness, that less is more. What is more important is that you remain in the present, that your mind is calm for you to enjoy the things of the world. Finally, we saw the happiness formula yesterday, which is desires fulfilled divided by desires harbored. Focus on the denominator. The numerator is irrelevant. And now that you know that desire is the culprit, the devil in us, liberate yourself from desire, greed, and anger. What a wonderful, when you summarize it, then you get inspired. I hope you get inspired. The inspiration, and you go back, embark on a path of desire reduction, desire upgradation, and ultimately desire elimination, and come face to face with your own infinite nature. With this, we come to the end.
Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yogo Nama Shodashodhyaya.
Now, as is the tradition, to indicate that our study of the 16th chapter has not ended but only begun, we will all together chant the first verse of the chapter once.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Dhanam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam